Our next speaker, Dr. Suzanne Groevier, Afrikaans lady, a fellow Marty, you an alumnus. Hey, hello. She did her MSc in biotechnology from the University of Technology. She has started off her career with doing biomedical research and vaccine development, specifically HIV and HPV. I won't go into too much more detail, Suzanne, you can tell us more. But currently she is the first year practical coordinator at chemistry, and she has been experimenting a lot with eColloquium, and her title is Unlimited Attempts. I'll do it once. Oh, I'll do it once.
Thank you. The title sort of gives everything away, but since you all work with students, I assume this is nothing new. This is not news. So just a bit of background. The first year chemistry students are a total of 1,300. I am concentrating on a group of 800 doing 4 modules, and well, for this talk. So every week the students have a practical. There are about 10 practicals in a semester. The practical mark each week is made up of a quiz mark. They have to go on eColloquium and do this quiz. The quiz is available for a whole week before the practical starts. And they can do it unlimited times, and we only take the highest score. So they're really incentivized to do this over and over to get the highest possible score. The quiz is half the marks, and since the practical marks in total counts for 30% of the CAM, that means that 15% of CAM is, it's there, it's available, it's lying on eColloquium. They can just go do the quizzes. They have a week, and 15% of the CAM is there. That's easy money. It's waiting for you. I forgot to say, more than 93% of the first years, of the 1,300 first years, are not continuing with chemistry into the second and third years. So a huge number of them are service students. They're just there to get it over with. And I would think if you're just there to get it over with, take the 15%, it's there. What do I know? So I decided to look at the quizzes and look at how the students interact. How many times, since it's unlimited, do they actually attempt the quiz? I expected to see something like this, where at the beginning of the year they would do it the first time, twice, maybe 3 times, because it's novel. We don't know how it works, let's do it a few times. Then it would drop off, and usually by the 3rd practical I remind them that it does count 50% and it is available for the whole week, so do it. And I expected to see a nice rise in attempts after that. And then after the end of the first semester, when they get the bulk marks back and they can see the effect of doing the quiz or not, I expected to see an even more rise in attempts, because the data is there, it helps you. Oh my. What I did find was that number of attempts pretty much stayed the same. Bit up, bit down, but they were not interested in doing it more times because they were told, or anything else. The only thing that you could see was if the quiz was easier, which you can see from the high average mark at the top, they would try it fewer times, because if you got full marks the first time, why would you do it again? And then if it was a more difficult quiz, with the average being lower, they would try a few times more. But if the quiz is the same level of difficulty, they just finish it up and leave. on this one. As a group, students are not impacted by promises of easy marks. And this completely blew my mind. Yeah. What I then wanted to find out, for those who actually do the quiz multiple times, is there an increase in the mark that we record for them? So first I looked at the distribution of marks. This is, cherry-picked a few of the experiments, and this is the distribution that we had. Number of students, what average they had, and the whole graph is to the right-hand side, to the higher marks, which is completely expected because we give them the time, the opportunity, and we tell them, go at it. So we want them to have very good marks. But then looking at putting it another way, looking at number of attempts against the highest marks, suddenly there's a very definite trend where students who had a lower final mark recorded, and remember we record the highest mark only. So if the highest mark is 50% or below that, the average times they tried to do the quiz was 1.5 times. If the students got an average mark of, or highest mark of more than 80%, they attempted on average 4.3 times. So what we see is that the students who need to get their marks up are also those who just don't try. So instead of realizing that they need the marks, they just let it go. And the students who do it a lot get more marks. Again, this is intuitive. But the next question I wanted to answer was, how many attempts should a student then, how many times should you attempt it? Is there a magic number? Looking at groups of students, the blue, it's very small, sorry. The blue, those are students getting 50% and less. Between 50 and 80 are the pink lines, and then above 80% are the green ones. So it's very obvious that students getting higher marks, the ones getting 80% and up, are also the ones who engage significantly more, many times more. Depending on the practical, it would be 2 to 4 times more attempts. Question came up, but what about those students who got full marks the first time and then didn't try again? Are they skewing this so that the impact is even more? Because looking at this 2 to 4 times, it's okay, but not that much. So when I removed the students from the data set, the ones that did it once, got full marks, and then stopped attempting, and I was now only looking at people who got the highest mark on second or subsequent attempts, the change went, it just increased that much. And suddenly, there are up to a 7 times difference between the students doing well and the students not doing well. So, on average, the student who gets 80%, who really gets those 15% on their CAM and who's going for it, will attempt the quiz 7 times more than the average of 1.5. That is, and they are the marks. So, conclusion. There is a definite positive correlation between number of quiz attempts and the marks they obtain. Most students need to attempt at least 6 times, and this is a conservative figure, to get the maximum learning value from the quiz. 6 times, yeah, less conservative. So if we want to stage some intervention for the lower scoring students, we will have to get them to engage more. And as we heard, students aren't that interested in engaging. So I don't know how we're going to do this. Are you going to have a marking system where they get bonus marks for trying again? Something like that. You know, but that gets ridiculous. I don't know what we're going to do, but it's very obvious that looking at this, we need to get students to do it more often. Now, one of the reasons why students don't do it that often might be because they are service students, with the whole idea of, as long as I'm passing, that's enough. So what I want to look at now is if there's that will be future work. If there's a correlation between students continuing in their second and third years, how many attempts they made, and just compare that to service course people. But we'll get to that when we get to that. That's short, sweet. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. I would like to know regarding the quiz, because we do something similar with our first years in nursing, but they don't have multiple attempts. So I just want to know, how long do the student get to do the time of the quiz, the timing of the quiz?
That's also unlimited.
Yeah,
They can take as long
Is it
as
open for an hour?
Oh no, it's open for a week.
So it's a whole week, so they're not limited to anything.
No.
How many questions do you have?
It depends on the quiz. It would be between 8 if it's more difficult, and up to 20 when it's more just yes or no answers. And it's open for a week from when the previous practical starts until just before the next one, and they have to hand in that time. They're not allowed to do the practical if they didn't do the quiz.
And so you say it's a varied number of questions, and is it
Yes.
multiple choice questions?
Yes.
So no writing or anything?
No. We find it just easier to manage like that.
Thank you.
I don't even mind. Good morning. So the students all got the same type of questions. So didn't you consider using a question pool where you can put in 50 questions and then extract it from the pool, and not getting the students get the same questions? And just a bit of advice on getting students to interact more with the quiz. You can make use of the lessons tool, where you can add other multimedia to make it a prerequisite before they do the quiz, because that's what I'm doing at physics. They need to interact with the simulations, videos, or answer a question before they can move on to the quiz, and they need to pause that quiz to do the next one, so subsequent stuff. And for my students, I only give them about 2 chances, and if they don't get the marks, they only get the marks after the quiz is done. And they're also not allowed to come into the lab if they didn't do the online quiz. Thank you.
We are trying to help the service corps students, by giving them more opportunities. We know that a lot of them didn't do chemistry at high school level. So, it's just a nice way of helping them out a bit. About the pools, some of the quizzes we have pools for, but we just don't have pools for all of them. It's just, I have 20 quizzes running. It's 16 quizzes per week for all the different labs, and then 20 weeks. So there are just too many questions. Yes.
You think of using other types of questions, like maybe calculated question or numerical response, where the parameters will change for each question. Maybe that will help you, because the subsequent year you don't need to change the question, and the system will allow you for the parameters to change.
Yeah, no, we're looking into that. We've only started doing this very recently, so we're still, on a learning curve about that. Did I not answer anything? Did I answer your question?
Good day, Prof. Rabia. What I would like to know is how do you ensure that it's the same student that takes the quiz and it's not them helping their friends out?
Oh, yes. Well, looking at the marks, I can tell you that they probably do it themselves. We don't have any control over that. And on the upside, most of them only start trying the attempts or start the quiz in the hour before it closes. So, again, you've got it for a week. So an hour before it closes, suddenly the responses are coming in fast, and I suspect by that time they just don't have time to help each other. But we have no control over that.
Do you plan on making the students aware of the data you've collected and your findings? Because I think that would encourage them.
Yeah. Well, I tell them every time that this is how we calculate it and this is how it, this is what it means for you, but they never pay attention. So I am planning on putting this, on the resources of eColloquium and just making them aware, because I think they should know. I don't know if it will have an effect. That will be interesting.
Sorry, I've never used the mics in my life. So just something which I've seen as well is this almost suicidal behavior by students when you give them a chance. And how do you make sense, even though it's a service course, how do you make sense of students acting in an almost academically suicidal way?
If I knew that answer, I wouldn't be grey. I am grey. I don't understand it. Everything is there, it's available. I didn't mention we have videos that we made in the lab, so using our equipment, our environment. For each experiment there's a video saying, so you're going to use this piece of equipment, then you're going to do that over there. It's, they can see what they're doing. And about 10% of them actually watch the videos. Then they come into the lab and say, but why aren't there more direction? Because there are videos and they're not interested. I don't know if they don't realize the impact or if they don't care. Okay. But that is what we have. Yes.
Thank you for sharing. I'm from EMS ABD, and we've got about approximately over 800 students in the first year. So what we decided to do is change the game of the quiz. We obviously randomized, we've got different pools, because we don't want students to sit next to each other and copy. So they think they can copy, and we're like, no, don't bother looking at the next door screen. It's not going to be the same answer. Your A is not the A on my screen. And what we decided is to be a bit more strict. So we've got the quizzes, about 20 questions, I think between 5 to 7 minutes, only one opportunity. 4 quizzes, and we'll take the best marks. I also say, please keep reading, please do your reading before you come to class. And eventually, when I notice that the class interaction is very little, I then say, right, close the books, quiz number 1, open, let's start. And we then say, okay, we give it the quizzes back to the tutors, and then we decide on one bonus question. So if you've got question 5 correct, then we'll say you'll get the full 20 out of 20. So maybe just try and think of other ways. Because I think previously when we used to give the students more opportunity and more time, we felt that that is exactly what was happening to your results, what was happening on our side. That students were doing it for the last minute, and that there wasn't really an urge or the urgency to do it. So the limited time, randomizing, it helped us. Thank you.
Can I just maybe give some advice on your, where you have the discrepancy of this, the identity of the student?
Yes.
That you maybe before they enroll or before they register, that you have a fingerprint digital system where it's monitored and registered onto the student's information, and when the student does take the quiz, that they have to put the fingerprint before doing it, and that will identify if it's the correct student or the same student taking it twice.
The students don't do it in the lab or at a central place where there are fingerprint readers.
Yeah.
They do it at home, on their phones, in the library, wherever they can. We do not allow phones into the labs at all. I mean, if you can't drive with a phone, you definitely can't science with a phone. So we don't have the opportunity to do it in the lab. And, outside, just because of the numbers, we can't get 800 students into the same facility with fingerprint readings at any time. Okay.